Hey there, this is Natalie, and this is my second quick, casual, unscripted episode review of one of the three more wholesome, generally less edgy shows that I've been watching tonight. The reason I'm doing these videos in a more unscripted, casual kind of way is because I can't really give you any particularly deep analysis about these brand new shows, where none of them are things where I've read the source material, and so I'm going into them completely new, and I just wanted to give my initial thoughts on where I think these shows are going, whether they're ones I'm likely to keep watching, and what there is that makes them seem worth a look at the beginning of this fairly well-stocked new anime season. So in my last review I talked about Sleepy Princess in the Demon King's Castle, and in this one I want to look at Kuma 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 Bear, the anime with probably the most redundant title I've seen. There was one a few years back that was called Demon King Daimao. It wasn't very good. If you've never heard of it, I wouldn't particularly recommend it. It was kind of a generic magic school harem type thing. But anyway, Kuma 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 Bear is a show that I suspect is going to be an isekai. Though in the first episode, we actually just saw the main character playing a VRMMO. So while I think from stuff I've seen that she is actually going to get transported into the world of the game, in the first episode we really just get the impression of what the game that she plays is like, and the main gimmick, which is that the main character Yuuna has acquired a super rare in-game item that is this strange bear costume with bear puppets for hands that is possibly the most OP thing that exists in this MMO. It looks absolutely ridiculous, and so people both within the game and the NPCs that set quests just can't take Yuna seriously. However, she's able to summon two giant fluffy cute bears that she can ride around on and perform super OP bear magic. That, as we see in the first episode, makes even high-level monsters not too much of a challenge for her. In this initial episode, we also get to learn a bit about what Yuna's current life in the normal world is like when she's not playing the VRMMO. She's 15 years old, but rather than attending school, she's some kind of genius day trader who's made a fortune on the stock exchange, and she's paid for her parents to go off travelling, leaving her to live in a luxury apartment that her grandfather has co-signed for. She seems to spend her days, hikkikomori style, just playing in this particular VRMMO where she's acquired the bear costume. And it looks like that's all she really wants to do. She says, in a way that I'm sure is going to look ironic once she gets isekai'd, that this is the world that she's been living in for the last few months. Now to me, this kind of very gimmick heavy, more comedy slanted kind of isekai really lives or dies based on whether or not the main character is likable and how the gimmick is kind of played on. With the whole cute bear costume thing, I was expecting Yuna to be some kind of cutesy super moe girly girl, but actually she seems like a more interesting character than that. We can probably guess that she's super intelligent based on how she spends her time in the real world, and in the way that she interacts with the villagers that she saves from a giant snake in the first episode, we get an impression that she's kind of a fairly heroic character that takes the attitudes of the children in this world quite seriously. It's almost sort of like she wants to be a good role model. And I'm sure we'll find out why she's so earnest about what young kids think and do as we go further into the series. The fact that she seems to have a fairly sensible, mature and almost noble personality really makes the bear costume thing kind of work. It gives it some heart without it just feeling like wackiness for the sake of it, and also without straying too far into overly cutesy, saccharine kind of territory. To me, she does seem like an interesting protagonist, and she actually makes me quite hopeful for this show. Often with these kind of very high concept, wacky isekai shows, like that one where the wrestler who's kind of a furry opened a pet shop in another world, Often after just a couple of episodes, once the novelty and the initial humour of the one joke has worn off, there just isn't much left to sustain your interest in the actual story. Or the story itself is kind of crap and just bolted onto the one joke, like in that MILF Isekai show. Though, you know, since I said this was going to be a nice, cheerful, wholesome kind of review, I probably shouldn't be talking about things that really suck. So yeah, having watched episode 1 of Kuma 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 Bear, I think it actually has a lot more potential than I was expecting it to. And this is really just based on the fact that I find the main character kind of intriguing, and I think she's likable. The quirky comedic aspects of the show are more hit than miss for me, and while I don't see it setting the world on fire, it could be one of those dark horse isekai type shows like My Next Life as a Villainess that actually ends up being one of the highlights of the season. So far I would say I do prefer it to the other isekai that I've checked out so far, which is I'm Standing on a Million Lives. That was okay too, but I really think that this one, while the story isn't likely to be as complex as that one's or as deep, does seem to have some good character writing so far and a generally endearing tone. So have any of you guys checked out Kuma 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 Bear? It's not a show I've seen a lot of people talking about, but I think it's definitely worth a look if you like isekai in general and are interested in something just a little bit different from the usual. And definitely more on the uplifting, quirky sort of end. That's really about all I can say about it based on just one episode, but as with all of the other shows I'm checking out this week, there's a chance I may make more content about it later in the season, depending on if there's any particularly big talking points or anything I feel like making a video about. Thank you for listening to this one, and I hope to see you again very soon.